Tributes are pouring in today for Price is Right host Bob Barker, who died of natural causes at age 99 at his Hollywood Hills home.
He was one of the most beloved men in the country, if not the world.
The Price is Right was the #1 game show in America.
The longest running game show in history.
This was the American dream. People dream of hearing their names and being told to come on down.
And Bob Barker was the #1 show host.
Bob Barker was a master at what he did. He was wonderful with the contestants.
Women loved Bob Barker.
When I was on The Price is Right, I got up on the stage and I said, Bob, can I kiss you?
You know, all-American game shows, giving everybody cars.
I always admired him. He'd exude kindness.
I don't think he could do anything wrong.
America loved him, but we knew a different Bob Barker.
Most people are not aware of how many times Bob Barker has been sued by female employees. He is a liar. He is a shameless, self-promoting liar.
The real Bob Barker was selfish, conceited. He was verbally abusive to me. He called me a dumb bitch.
He was vindictive. He was sexually aggressive. If you don't do what I want, you are going to regret it.
And then all of a sudden, Bob started having sex with Diane.
The Price is Right scandal was such a stunning story.
One of the men stuck their hands right on my boobs.
We were only allowed to have 2 black contestants on the show at a time. That was a direct instruction from Bob Barker.
People were calling me the N-word and saying you shouldn't have your black ass on the show.
Sexist jokes, racist jokes.
Intimidation, harassment, discrimination, really something much darker that was happening behind the scenes.
I lived through hell.
The show has been shrouded in silence for too long. The story needs to be told. It's time to tell the truth.
Come on! Yeah!
I remember first hearing about the Bob Barker scandal in the 90s.
Everyone's talking about game show host Bob Barker.
And thinking, oh, wait a minute, that can't be.
The quiz show sex scandal that is rocking Hollywood.
This grandfatherly guy that everybody loved might be a sex harasser.
I have never forced her to do one thing that she did not want to do.
It went so against his public persona that you had to cover it. And cover it we did. I'm Diane Diamond. I used to be a senior correspondent with the syndicated television show Hard Copy. We were a really popular tabloid television show back then. We all wanted to know what life was really like behind those big doors at The Price is Right. You know, Bob Barker, he was so popular. Was he actually doing what Diane Parkinson said he was doing back in the dressing room? We want to believe that these people who are on our televisions are beyond reproach, that they're our best friends. But believe me, in Hollywood, there's a lot of people with dark sides.
I was thinking the other day that in our industry, there are one-of-a-kinds. There'll never be another Elvis Presley, another Marilyn Monroe, and there'll never be another Bob Barker. So the tie I'm wearing, actually, it was one of Barker's ties. I was fortunate to be given a few of his ties when he passed. I have not put any of them on until today. I wear it proudly. I'm Roger Neal. I was Bob Barker's publicist for 15 years and knew him for almost 40 years. So Barker was born in 1923 in Washington State. 1950, he's 27 years old. He and his bride come to Hollywood. He had success when he got here. radio and television.
Remember this name. You're going to be hearing a lot about him. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Barker! Bob Barker! Bob Barker! Here's Bob!
And it started his legendary career in Hollywood. So Mark Goodson and Bill Todman did the original version of Price is Right in the 50s. And in 1972, they decided to bring that show back. And they said, that's who we want to host the new Price is Right, which created, I think, probably the greatest game show in history.
When I hear The Price is Right, the first thing I think about is the first show. I think about Bob walking through the doors onto the Price is Right stage.
And now here's the star of the new Price is Right, Bob Barker!
And the audience went crazy. My name is Barbara Hunter. I was the first female producer for Mark Goodson Productions. The original production team was 9 of us. I would be with Barker in his dressing room before every show.
There's your $100.
$100?
And there's your 1 bid.
My 1 bid?
Yep.
We became really good friends. I think he had an ego. He called himself the world's greatest master of ceremonies, but I guess it was deserved. He never seemed to fail at anything.
The new Price is Right was a hit from day one. And it had a lot to thank. It had a beautiful set. It had an incredible host. People dream of being on The Price is Right. It was the only show taking everyday, untested people plucked from the audience to win glamorous prizes. For a lot of people, it becomes this thing to attain. My name's Christian Carrion. I am one of the leading game show nerds in the world. In the new version of The Price is Right, we're jazzing up the show. We're going to jazz up the on-air personnel as well. And so they introduced the Barker's Beauties.
I think that was probably the smartest thing that they did was put 3 beautiful models on the show, modeling the prizes, and America fell in love.
We would call them the girls. It seemed okay at the time. Maybe it doesn't sound good now, but they were wonderful. Janice was the adult in the room. Diane was beautiful, but very fragile. And Holly was just a lot of fun, always.
Holly Hallstrom was the funny one. She's my favorite by a mile. She wasn't afraid to fall on her face. She wasn't afraid to trip and drop something or, you know, mess up a prize because it was fun. It was just fun to watch.
And to the winner of the section.
She was the first one to let everybody involved know you can get laughs and be a game show model.
There was no precedent, so you were setting the precedent of how big you could go, how crazy you could act. I'm gonna hit this boom mic, you know. Is the boom in the shot?
No. Not in the shot at all.
How did I miss it? My head was right next to it. I think they could sense that I was not perfect. I was not poised. I was trying so hard to look like I belonged there. But of course, I was just some country hippie chick trying to convince people I was a professional model. If you look at my first shows, it's like just sheer terror behind the smile. I'm like, okay, is this good? And I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Go lie down, Holly.
But eventually, these people just became my new friends and family. I had come to LA and I didn't know anyone. It was such a tight, fun group.
Here we are at Janice's Wild Kingdom.
Oh, he's looking at
exploring the dangerous katydid.
At the time, I had no idea what was going to happen. America thinks he's Santa Claus. You know, he's out there giving away cars.
People loved him. He was very amicable on stage. So that's what they saw.
People are not going to believe when they hear the whole story.
All the drama, all the chaos backstage, it was just bad.
There were so many people involved. It wasn't just Barker. They know what they did, and they're still out there.
It's power. It's 1,000% abuse of power.
Finally, women stood up and said, no more.
I wanted to wait until Bob was gone because I knew that he would jump in and deny everything. But I was there, I heard what was said, and I know he is lying. For years, Bob Barker controlled the story. But that ends today. LA in the 70s, it was wild. It was out all night clubbing and just continue the party back at work. After we'd wrap, we'd sit in the green room and order pizza and open the liquor cabinet.
It was full of any kind of liquor you wanted, all the cigarettes you wanted. That prompted some of us to go out onto an empty stage and put on shows at 10 o'clock at night.
The early days, it was so much fun, I couldn't wait to go there. We had a wonderful producer named Jay Wolpert, who was brilliant. He created a whole let's have fun kiddies kind of atmosphere.
The Price is Right, under Jay Wolpert, had a sort of madcap quality to it. There's laughter and there's bizarre, surreal humor in the showcases and some of the prizes. Jay Wolpert was instrumental in that.
It was a great day if you could make Jay laugh or surprise him. I can't tell you how many times I said, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. And all that changed when Jay left.
When Jay left the show in 1978, I was on track to become producer.
Barbara was basically running the show. But rather than promote Barbara to producer, the executive producer, Frank Wayne, hired his son, Phil Wayne, to produce the show. And he had no experience producing a television show like that. Nepotism is the worst thing about Hollywood because you have people in positions that should not be in those positions. There was all kinds of problems and stop tape because Phil would sit at the production table and doze off.
What are you doing over here today? Now, first of all,
Not only did they hire him, they put his name first on the credits and gave him the same salary that it had taken Barbara 10 years with the company to get. There was a prevailing attitude that the men were the decision makers and women were just accessories.
If you look at the way the show was staffed back in the day, it was very much an old boys club. They're just so clearly from a different era. And Bob Barker, the guy with the power, he would dictate the culture of the workplace.
I had some recurring characters that I would play. I remember the French maid.
Yes, folks, our hard-working models have never finished until they've taken care of Bob Barker at home.
When we did sketches, everything was catered to Bob because he liked the attention and the power that it gave him. That was their mindset. Women should just be voluptuous, movable props. You know, you go out, you stand next to a boat, and you're wearing a bathing suit. They put us in bathing suits every opportunity they got. And they like to remind us, Janice, Diane, and I, that we were replaceable so that we would never feel secure. The producers would call us every week and say, we would like to use you this week, like we were just weekly contract players. when actually we were a huge part of the show. But they never wanted us to think that or know that. I remember one year, Frank came to me and said, "We really need a model who can fill out a bathing suit. I would advise you to use your hiatus wisely." Meaning, I had to go get breast implants. And I had to pay for it myself. And they could do that back then. They could tell you, you're gonna get breast implants, and there was nothing you could say.
It was an office full of men, probably in their late 40s or 50s. And all the young girls, we were in our 20s. That's what we were dealing with. One time, I was told, go to wardrobe and put on a bunny cocktail outfit with mesh nylons on and high heels. And then take this bottle of vodka to Mr. Goodson. Mark Goodson was the biggest game show producer there was. And so I said, okay. So I went into Mr. Goodson's office with the vodka, and there were like 5 men sitting around. I was really uncomfortable. Nothing happened to me. I probably shouldn't have said yes, but I didn't want to lose my job. And I had no idea at what point could you lose your job.
And then it starts to turn even darker.
Bob's beloved wife, Dorothy Jo, passes away in 1981. Dorothy Jo was Bob's biggest cheerleader. She is why he had the career that he had up to that point.
They went to Hawaii in August. Then she was diagnosed with lung cancer and died 2 months later. Bob really went into a funk after that. He was ready to take his own life. That's what he shared with me.
He was devastated, really, by her death. There was a long period of mourning. And then all of a sudden, he became like Mr. Man About Town, you know? He knew that he was the star of the biggest show in daytime. And Dorothy Jo wasn't there anymore, keeping him reined in. It's like he was unleashed and turned into this narcissistic egomaniac.
The Price is Right, by the time the 80s came around, just became this ratings juggernaut. It's the highest rated show on CBS, the highest rated show in daytime. The Barker's beauties become household names. And Bob Barker himself was becoming famous. 1982, Bob Barker wins his first Emmy.
Bob Barker for The Price is Right.
It was the first of 19 Emmys. The show was just beloved, and then he was hosting the pageants, and he was hosting the Tournament of Roses parade. The man was busy.
When the show starts, you have to turn it on. And when you've done it long enough, you know which button to press.
People could not get enough of The Price is Right and Bob Barker.
I remember 1987 when Bob came back from vacation and he walked on stage and his hair had gone natural and the audience went crazy.
They gave him a 3-minute standing ovation, and it was screaming, whistling, and catcalling from women.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
It turned into this national publicity story, and it made him feel like the supreme ruler of his universe. So Bob really saw himself as a major star. Over the years, he would negotiate a little more power for himself, a little more control or a little more money. And the next thing you know, Barker had literally seized control of the show.
When I started researching this story, it was one of these stories that you never heard much more about because the principal characters weren't speaking. So I guess for me, this is just a great lost story about how people are intimidated and silenced. My name's David Kushner. In 2024, I wrote an article about The Price is Right for Business Insider. In the late 80s, Barker controlled the game on TV, the game off TV, the game backstage.
When Bob took over executive producer, he controlled with an absolutely ruthless iron fist. If something happened on set, like if he didn't have a prop that he was supposed to have, or if there were stop downs during taping, if it made him angry, he had to just shred someone, a cameraman, a cable puller, anyone, venting his rage without ever considering how humiliating this was to whoever he was shredding. And he didn't care. He didn't care.
One of the first cracks came in 1988. This was something that revealed the real power behind the scenes.
My name is Robert Cisneros. I was stage manager on Price is Right. I was on the show from the good old days in the beginning until things kind of progressed a little bit differently later on. In 1988, I was backstage in my normal starting position for the show. The announcer started calling contestants, come on down. One of the cameras has to swing from the stage to the audience to shoot the audience. The director's going, get your shot, get your shot. And the guy whipped his camera, and Janice happened to be standing right there. And there's a ledge with about a 3-foot drop to the concrete floor. And he hit Janice, and she went over. And then people start screaming. Bob came out and said, listen, we have a show to do. He says, so I need you to be your best like nothing ever happened, and show must go on.
One could argue that he has this, show must go on attitude and we gotta just get together. But, you just imagine someone in your family gets knocked unconscious, you're gonna kind of stop everything. And ostensibly they were a family, but he just was not treating anyone that way. That episode revealed the attitude behind the scenes, which is you're kind of on your own. You get hit by a camera, we don't have your back. At the same time, CBS starts to get flack for being called the Caucasian broadcast system because of how white it is. So they're talking to each other. Listen, we've got to diversify. They targeted The Price is Right, of course, because this is the biggest daytime show and all the models have always been white. So they do a casting call for the first black Barker's Beauty.
When I was growing up, I would always watch The Price is Right and admire the Barker beauties. This was the elite modeling gig of all time. I said, wow, that looks like something I could do. I'm Kathleen Bradley. I'm so happy and proud that I was able to be the first permanent black model on The Price is Right. I remember how exciting it was my very first day. I'll never forget. And just driving up on the lot with the big CBS sign there, right there on Beverly and Fairfax. Boy, was I nervous. I mean, all of a sudden, here comes a black girl on the show. And you're always gonna have negativity and people who are prejudiced. But I'm kind of used to it. I got thick skin. I was born near Youngstown, Ohio. Dad worked at the steel mill like almost everyone else. I did break a lot of barriers. I was the first Black homecoming queen. Then I went on to join an all-female group called The Love Machine. I did it for 8 years to put me in the position I believe to be one of Barker's beauties.
Since Kathleen has become Barker's beauty right here.
I knew I could do it. I love being in front of the live audience. I called everybody. I told them, I said, finally, I'm gonna be a Bob Barker beauty. I'm on The Price is Right. It was just one of the happiest times of my life. But as time went on, at some point it got back to me that some of the fans were writing negative things about me being on the show as a Black model, saying you shouldn't have your Black ass on the show, and just not a good feeling.
You'd like to think Kathleen Bradley's arrival would signify the times are changing. They were kind of changing on screen, but not necessarily backstage.
Then one of the ladies on the production team brought it to my attention that inside a production meeting, when the models weren't in there, they would use the N-word. People should know the truth, the good, the bad, the ugly.
It wasn't just Barker. And there are people who are not talking in this documentary because they know what they did, and they're still out there. Intimidation, harassment, discrimination, really despicable things. And they were just getting away with it.
Watching older episodes of The Price is Right today is pretty cringeworthy. And to just see the way that Bob handles women in general on the show. He would call contestants little girls.
Step back here, my child. I want to talk with you for just a minute.
He would comment on their appearance.
Now, I'll watch you dress, you watch the wheel.
I think it's fair to say that he wanted to be like Hugh Hefner, or he wanted to be like Charlie with Charlie's Angels. That's just kind of how he saw the world, you know?
Show them, everyone, what you can do with those lovely little dresses you have on today. Yeah. There they go. There they go.
And I think especially as it goes into the 90s and just that newfound freedom that women had to speak out.
I was very uncomfortable with the idea and told him so.
The world was changing.
Justice Ginsburg, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me?
But the culture backstage at The Price is Right didn't really change along with it.
When I initially started the show, everybody was pretty cool and really friendly, especially the crew. But over a course of time, I kind of noticed the guys were kind of talking, looking, gawking at the girls. I found out this was a little more commonplace than I thought.
It became common knowledge, stay away from this person or stay away from that person. There was stuff going on where you had to say, hey, stop that. One time I was in the elevator and one of the men just stuck their hands right on my boobs. You know, I had to push him away. I didn't say anything. It became instinct to know how to handle it.
One guy in particular, he was a little friendly, too friendly. Would rub up against us, joking around. It was totally inappropriate. I learned the stagehand had been around on the set for a long time and was probably doing it to all the other girls. When I reported this guy to the producers, to my surprise, no action was taken. I was really taken aback. This was really sexual harassment. So I took matters into my own hands. One day we had a set of golf clubs on the set. I said, oh, hey, show me, do you know how to play golf? He said, yeah, I play a little bit. Come here, let me show you. So I let him get behind me, and I said, okay, I backed up. I accidentally hit him right in the groin. Accidentally on purpose, that was. We were so exhausted and tired of the treatment, and you just have to do what you have to do.
If anyone had gone to Bob, because Bob is in charge of the show, and said, I have a problem, I have a complaint, he would have told her to get over it or look for a new job.
Eventually, CBS, after receiving a lot of complaints about staff hitting on the models and staring at them and making creepy comments to them, they instated what they call the 10-second rule, where you were not allowed to openly stare at a model for more than 10 seconds.
10 seconds is a long time to stare at somebody. Yeah, it's crazy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It was something that was put in place to placate the people who were complaining about being objectified. And it wasn't, to my knowledge, enforced.
There was no one monitoring how long the guys were staring at the models. It was a joke. It was an appeasement. They did things that made it look like they were taking action. So you will stop complaining and go away.
The show was making a lot of money. The show was making millions. And so I think that it behooved them to sweep those things under the rug.
Which was really hard because Bob started having sex with Diane. It took a toll. There was fighting on the sets, yelling, and it was massive. And it ultimately, I think, destroyed Price is Right.
These were some very happy times. It was so nice and wonderful and happy days back then, and it just reverberates in my heart, my soul. Just looking at Bob, looking at Janice and Holly, and standing next to everybody, you know, one big happy family. When we hit the stage, the professionalism was there, but there were so many different things going on behind the scenes. There was some tension between the Barker Beauties.
There was a lot of animosity. Holly and Janice and Kathleen, they always got along together really well. And Diane was kind of the outcast.
Diane Parkinson became the third Barker's Beauty in 1975 on The Price is Right. She was what we would consider today to be the prototype of a supermodel. She won Miss USA. She was a runner-up in the Miss World pageant.
With things like this around, I can't understand why Uncle Sam wants you.
Diane Parkinson was, she once said, the wholesome, sexy one. She was really kind of positioned to be like the Pam Anderson of daytime TV. She'd wear negligees and revealing bathing suits.
The fan reaction to Diane was pretty intense.
I mean, I like the show, but she makes it. Diane is the show.
She got thousands of pieces of fan mail per week from people that just loved watching her.
Janice and I first realized, long before the rest of the set knew, that Diane and Bob were having sex.
Diane confided in me, did you know I'm seeing Bob Barker? I'm like, what? Really? Oh, wow, okay. I was really kind of surprised because Bob also had a girlfriend. As time went on, people were noticing, the audience and the viewers at home, how close Bob and Diane were, hugging and looking at each other and playing around and all of that.
There's nothing. Well, this is just a big mix-up. There's more Price is Right coming up.
So it didn't really stay private very long. She would go downstairs during the breaks and go into his dressing room. And that's when some real hanky-panky was going on.
She suggested that I had been so straight-laced all my life that I needed some hanky-panky in my life. Now, that was the word she used, hanky-panky. And she volunteered to provide the hanky-panky in my life.
One day I was walking into the studio and walking past Bob's room. Well, she came walking out of that door, closing her robe with a big smile on her face. And I go, oh, what's going on here?
Everybody knew who worked on that show that Bob Barker and Diane Parkinson were having an affair. It really divided the Barker beauties because suddenly Diane was the queen bee and they just had to watch their P's and Q's, otherwise pillow talk would go against them.
Of course, the other models hated Diane. Of course, she was getting preferential treatment. She was sleeping with the boss.
Everyone was basically kissing her behind because she may potentially be the new Mrs. Barker.
In an already volatile interpersonal environment, to add that extra dynamic was like adding fuel to a fire.
Next thing you know, I get a call from Bob's girlfriend. And everyone knew that Bob was cheating on her with Diane. And she said, I know that Bob is sleeping with Diane. And I said, well, let's put it this way. She dates a lot. And she targets celebrities. And she said, oh, like who? And I rattled off this list of celebrities, including several black men. And she said, oh my gosh, Bob has no idea that he has had sex with a woman who has had sex with black men. Bob has always said that black men are the most diseased people on earth. It was horrible. It was horrible. Was I surprised? No. He fit the profile. Rich, old, white, entitled, racist.
When I heard what happened, I really did not want to believe that of Bob. I put Bob on a pedestal. I mean, he was like here, he was like the rock star. And for him to say this, I was angry, I was in disbelief, I was hurt. When you find out somebody you looked up to has a total different agenda than what you thought, what a big can of worms had just been opened. It was not a good look for Bob. Diane would confide in me that Bob did mention if she had ever been with any other person that was black, that he would not be happy and that he thought they might have had some kind of communicable disease or something.
And sure enough, when Bob found out about Diane having slept with black men, he called her into his dressing room and they had the screaming fight of all time.
He went off. The shit hit the fan. Oh my God.
The whole set was dead silent, listening. And Diane comes out of Bob's dressing room and goes up the stairs, and Bob's assistant is running after her saying, Diane, you've got to apologize to Bob. And Diane turns around at the top of the stairs. It's like the scene from Romeo and Juliet. And she's standing at the top of the stairs, and the whole set, dead silent, is watching. And Diane says, I have sucked his too many times to start kissing his ass now. Woo!
I'm like, what? It did not go over well with Barker.
One of the producers standing next to me said, dang, who writes her stuff?
Shortly thereafter, Diane was approached by Playboy magazine. We had already been forewarned that we were not to be in Playboy. Bob and Diane were not together at this time. Now, I don't know if it was her way of getting back at him, but she posed for Playboy. The photos were a little risque. That just did not go over well with Barker.
And once again, this brought about an explosion. Bob arrived at the set, and we could hear the shouting. No, 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 you're crazy.
It's a family show, for Christ's sakes. pretty much that was the end of Diane Parkinson on The Price is Right.
I want you folks to know that the lovely Diane is leaving The Price is Right to pursue other interests.
18 years that Diane had been on the show, and she's gone. And Diane was not happy. She was very bitter. She wanted to get back at him. We talked on the phone. She said he was sexually harassing me and forcing me to do things to him in the dressing room when I didn't want to do it. And I'm gonna get my attorney. I'm gonna file a sexual harassment lawsuit against him. I couldn't believe it.
The quiz show sex scandal that is rocking Hollywood.
Parkinson's lawsuit will be filed within a week.
She's claiming sexual misconduct, and he's labeling her a greedy opportunist.
As God is my witness, I have never forced her to do one thing that she did not want to do.
Once Diane filed that lawsuit, everything changed.
That's when things got even worse.
Barker would not be the kind of person you'd want to mess with. At all.
If you weren't on Team Bob, look out.
With Barker, it's not enough to just ruin your life, to fire you and deprive you of your livelihood. He wanted to destroy you. I looked at him and I thought, you are scary. There's a snake inside there. Everybody was in trouble.
Remember this name. You're going to be hearing a lot about him.
In our industry, there are one of a kinds,
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
and there'll never be another Bob Barker.
America thinks he's Santa Claus. Come on down! But backstage, whole different thing.
There was sexual harassment, discrimination, and they were just getting away with it.
And then Bob started having sex with Diane.
To add that extra dynamic was like adding fuel to a fire.
When Bob found out about Diane having slept with black men,
the shit hit the fan.
And Diane goes up the stairs and says, I have sucked his too many times to start kissing his ass now.
Woo! That was the end of Diane Parkinson on The Price is Right. She said, I'm gonna get my attorney. He was sexually harassing me.
That's when things got even worse.
Once Diane filed that lawsuit, everything changed.
I was being fired and I would not be coming back.
She said, hell no.
Holly's legal battle was epic.
Holly, she's in the ring fighting this death match with him.
You ready to hear some shit? I knew Bob was the enemy. They were only allowed to have 2 black contestants on the show at a time.
Step forward, please. The guts that it took to defend her name against one of the most powerful men in the entertainment business.
They really were the unsung warriors of Me Too.
The quiz show sex scandal that is rocking Hollywood. Parkinson alleges sexual harassment, but Barker claims she's a liar.
When Diane Parkinson sues him for sexual harassment, that was significant because it was the first time that someone really was taking a stand. Then you also have a willingness of Bob Barker to use the media. He just went on a full frontal attack to shame her.
It has been suggested that since I terminated this relationship, that it might be a bit of the old woman scorn.
All you hear left and right was, sexual harassment, sexual lawsuits. And it got to the point where the whole thing turned sour backstage.
Every time you went to the studio, you had to sit with lawyers. And all they wanted to hear was all the bad stuff about Diane and how Bob could not have possibly sexually harassed Diane. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was the only one that was asked to give a deposition that did not. I didn't want to commit felony perjury, which is exactly what it would have been if I'd given testimony.
The fact that Holly did not want to testify, I think that was a bad choice, because if you weren't on Team Bob, look out.
The situation between Bob and Holly was one in which he wanted her support in his legal troubles. He wanted her to back him up. And when she didn't do that, she was punished.
That is when Bob Barker versus Holly Hallstrom starts.
So Bob and one of the producers come into my dressing room. I was in shock because Bob would never come into my dressing room. And Bob told me that my weight was a problem, and I explained that I was on a prescription medication, but that my doctor assured me that once my hormones had balanced out, the weight gain would end. Bob said, well, just do whatever it takes to lose the weight. I said, well, that would require me going off the medication. Do you want me to go off the medication? He said, I just want you to do whatever it takes to lose the weight. Just lose the weight. And then Bob told the director, I want you to shoot Holly differently now, only from the head up and only when absolutely necessary. And I was cut out of at least 50% of the show.
We thought it was kind of odd. We knew it wasn't just about the weight.
They couldn't use the, well, she refused to lie for me excuse to get rid of me, so they said it was because of my weight. That's when I knew I was being set up to be fired.
Right in the middle of the drama that was happening between Bob and Holly, Diane dropped her lawsuit. And again, he was making appearances on talk shows.
The fact that she's dismissed the lawsuit is total vindication for me.
When Diane Parkinson dropped her lawsuit against Bob Barker, I wasn't surprised, because the powerhouse that she was up against, their pockets were endless. And she stepped away.
The last day anyone on that set saw Diane was the last day she shot Price is Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
After that, I have never talked to Diane again. I have no idea where she is.
I don't know, but it's entirely possible that she signed a non-disclosure, so she cannot speak. So she just disappeared forever.
So after Diane dropped the lawsuit, Holly lost the weight. But you could feel that Barker was pissed off that Holly did not give a deposition. And he never forgot that.
After we had wrapped, it was late at night, and Barker and one of the other producers had come into my dressing room again and said my weight was still a problem, and I was going to be taking early retirement. When I didn't agree, that's when the whole thing blew up. And then the lawyers called me and started negotiating terms of my retirement. And I'm like, I don't want to retire. There's no need for me to retire. But there really was no choice. Barker wanted me gone. I was being fired and I would not be coming back. After close to 20 years on the show, it devastated all the fans. People who, you know, really loved me. And you can feel that. That's one of the best things about being a celebrity is you can give people excitement and make a moment special, you know? And I miss that. Oh, yeah, we gotta stop. I'm going into the fucking ugly cry. I hate that man.
I was young when Holly had her last episode of The Price is Right. But I think that the people who saw what was going on knew that she was getting screwed.
Keep in mind that this is one of the most popular people on that show, and so the audience is wondering what's happening.
The network put out press releases why Holly was no longer on the show and just said that she elected to leave on her own and took an early retirement. When Holly heard about that, she said, hell no, that is not the truth.
CBS ran Bob Barker's PR campaign, and they were the only people being heard. So I said, I'm going to tell somebody the truth.
I didn't retire, I didn't leave, and I didn't quit. They kicked me out.
So Holly Holstrom decides to go on hard copy and tell me exclusively what life was really like behind those big doors at The Price is Right. And it sounded pretty damn harrowing.
After I had gone on hard copy and told everyone the truth, I knew he would come after me. And the next thing you know, my lawyers called and said, Bob Barker just filed a lawsuit against you for slander, libel, and defamation. And after that, no one spoke to me. No one returned my calls. They were just gone. Poof, it was all gone.
It was very clear that loyalty was expected, and if you didn't provide it, you would be fired. Because despite all this that was happening, Barker is on top of the world. This is a guy who was a national icon.
Bob Barker, come on down!
He's still so beloved. You know, all-American game shows, looking out for animals, giving everybody a chance and giving them cars.
It's Barker.
That's right.
Big Bad Barker.
Big Bad Barker.
Big Bad Barker. That whole world that he lives in just kisses his behind. And now I am so alone. Gosh, so alone. And going through the court process by myself, it was the worst thing in my whole life. Because with Barker, it was just like fighting a giant machine. It was overwhelming. It stayed that way for a couple years. And then one day, Linda Riegert, she was a production assistant, she called me up and she said, Holly, I can't stand it anymore. And I'm going to tell somebody the truth because I was there, I heard what was said, and I know he is lying.
So the real Bob Barker was really not a nice man. Barker wanted her to take early retirement. It wasn't a conversation, it was a command. She was pushed out. My name is Linda Riegert, and I worked on The Price is Right from 1993 to 2000. I started work there when I was about 40, 41. That was a dream job for me. Barker always came to me for pretty much everything. He always was really good to me until I overheard those conversations, and then everything changed. I would sit in my office. It was right next door to Holly's, and the walls are very thin. I overheard the very last conversation between them. Barker said that wanted her to take early retirement, that she was going to be leaving the show, and she said that she had lost most of the weight and she didn't want to take early retirement. And he said, well, that's too bad, you're going to. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nobody knew that I was in there. And now I had a problem because I heard everything. Eventually, Barker found out that I had overheard these conversations, and my life became hell on that stage. Anything that I did, and if it was the slightest bit off, he would call me over to the center of the stage and reprimand me. One time he called me a dumb bitch, but nobody ever heard it because he would drop the mic. He would just look into me like he was trying to burn my soul up. It was just awful. I was so proud to testify for Holly, but I had no idea that it would change my whole life.
Once again, the horns came out.
Anyone who would speak out against them would lose just about everything.
And no one was safe.
At this time, we'd already seen Diane go, and now Holly. But then Barker had the nerve to sue Holly for defamation of character.
It really was a dark period of time on the show. He was just most interested in himself and his reputation. So Bob was just trying to clear house and, save face.
His whole persona changed. Everyone felt it. We were all really walking on eggshells because we love Holly, me, Janice, everybody that was there, like Team Holly, but Bob's our boss. And little did we know, he was gunning for us. Wow, I'm really here. And here is my dressing room. I spent a lot of time right here, sitting in this chair, doing my hair. The last time I was in this room, I was fired. October 19th, 2000 was by far probably one of the worst days of my life. Went downstairs and there was the associate producer telling me to go in Bob Barker's dressing room for a meeting. Bob was nowhere around. It was the production company who gave us the news. He will no longer be a Barker beauty. I was numb. I couldn't even think. I really couldn't. I was like, did I just hear him say what I think he said? I called Janice as soon as I got home. And she said, you know that bastard fired me as well? Janice, she was there 29 years. Me, 10 years. It was so hurtful to let go so abruptly, without cause, without a goodbye. That was the most cowardly thing Mr. Bob Barker, I think, has ever done in his life.
In 2000, you had a half a dozen people were let go. wasn't just Kathleen and Janice who were fired. There were a lot of people.
Bob Barker's longtime executive assistant and their director, Paul Alter, had been working with the company for decades. In one fell swoop, them and more gone. And it seemed to be at a time when Bob was in a lot of legal trouble, and he was looking to the people around him to support him blindly. And I think that when people around him didn't support him, then came the retribution.
One by one, each one of us were called into a dressing room or something. The atmosphere was so tense. And this lady from HR, she said, well, thank you for your work, but you're no longer needed. Boy, that was tough. That was a dream job for me.
Eventually, the truth came out why all 6 of us were fired. We all refused to lie to save Barker's ass.
People lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they lost their careers.
Each of these people took a stand to do the right thing and a stand that did cause some personal consequence. But even at this time, it would take more people to turn the tide, more people speaking out. And that's where Claudia Jordan comes in.
My name is Claudia Jordan, and I was a Barker's Beauty from 2000 to 2003.
She alleges that she's been sexually harassed, racially discriminated against.
It's 1000% abuse of power. You ready to hear some shit? My name is Claudia Jordan, and I was a Barker's Beauty from 2000 to 2003. The second Black woman in history to be on the show. I moved to LA with $500 to my name, didn't know anybody, and then finally I auditioned for The Price is Right, and I got the job.
We have chosen as permanent Barker's Beauties Claudia Jordan and Heather Kozar. We're pleased to have you with us, and we hope you'll be happy with us for years to come.
Let's just put it out there. There's no way I could have replaced Kathleen Bradley. I was substituting for her. She's a legend. So I was honored to step into the role, but the more I found out about why she lost her job, the less positive it was. It's happy time.
I'm so glad they were smart and just replaced me with such a beautiful person.
I could never replace you, but it was an honor because I used to watch you and you already know this. You already know how I feel about you, so. And it was bittersweet. I was happy to work there, but I hated why, because I loved you from afar, and then I got to know you and I love you from up close. And it just was wrong. It really was, and we were all done wrong, all 3 of us.
I know.
The Price is Right was a place that was very much about retaliation.
Oh, yeah.
Doing the right thing would get you kicked out. Doing the wrong thing get you protected for years. Look at Phil, how long he was there.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Girl,
Oh my God, how he lasted so long. He was a piece of work.
Phil Wayne was a producer. He had been on the show for decades. He was a total Nepo hire. His father was the original executive producer, and he was just walked on in.
He had power, he had position, and he used it. He was also kind of a lech. He looked you up and down and knew he was undressing whomever he was looking at. One day he asked me if I would like to have breast implants. And he said, yeah, I'll pay for that if you'd like to have, bigger breasts. He was always saying things like that.
I remember one day I was at the touch-up station before you go on stage where you can fix your makeup and just last looks. And I was in the mirror and I was kind of bent over a little bit, and Phil came right behind me and his face was right here, and I felt a hand on my butt. He like cupped my butt cheek, and he was like, "Nice ass." And then he just walked off. And I was like, what? Like, did anyone see that? And I looked around and I just felt like, yuck.
We all knew that Philip was very fresh. He liked the women, you know, very touchy-feely at times. He just took advantage of his position. And of course, Bob was okay with it.
This area would be where the mirrors were set up. This would be the mirror that was set up where I was checking my makeup and hair when Phil came behind me and grabbed me. I was just like this and about to go on stage. Having a guy that you're not romantically involved in, that's not only putting his hand damn near in your butt crack, it was a very powerless position. I took matters into my own hands to file a formal complaint. And after that moment, it was never the same for me at The Price is Right. The retaliation started immediately. I would make sure to get to work on time. And no matter what I did, I would be like 3 minutes late. I'm like, how is this happening? Say the meeting was at 10:30, the clock would be like 10:33. And I'm feeling like I'm going crazy, right? I found out from a security guard that as soon as I walked in the lot, that they were supposed to report to Phil when I arrived. And I found out later on, the same security guard said, I think he set the clocks forward so you would look like you're late. And it only got worse. One day, I get called into Bob Barker's office. It's me, Phil, and Bob. And I thought it was about Phil grabbing my behind. So I was ready to like talk about it. And Bob Barker, with a very stern tone and very intimidating, says, "Now, Claudia, I understand you've been late several times and that's not acceptable here. So if you're late one more time, you will be suspended. And if you're late again after that, then you will be fired." Wait, what? Wait, that's all we're gonna talk about is me being 1 or 2 minutes late, not your right-hand man inappropriately touching me? Bob cut me off and he said, well, he said he was sorry. What more do you want, Claudia? And Phil just sat there with a smug look on his face. Once that happened, I knew Bob was the enemy. He does not have my back. He was going to protect Phil. There's a reason Phil was there for 22 years, just getting away with everything.
Why did this producer believe that he could engage in the outrageous behavior that he was alleged to have engaged in? Well, because Bob Barker said so. I'm Jeannie Harrison, and I'm a women's rights lawyer. I handle sex abuse cases, including representing women against Harvey Weinstein and the Weinstein Company. I do think that there are parallels between Harvey Weinstein's story and Bob Barker's story. It still is hard for people to believe that the beloved Bob Barker could have engaged in this kind of abusive behavior. But obviously, behind the scenes, he was willing to leverage his power and intimidate people from speaking the truth.
That's when I first learned the harsh reality of Hollywood. In my experience, Price is Right was much darker than anyone could imagine.
Claudia Jordan's story when it comes to The Price is Right is sad. She was a victim of that culture of bigotry and harassment.
There's a lot of bad behavior at The Price is Right. It's a good old boys club. But the one man that caused me the most grief and stress and anguish was the producer. He was abusing me not only physically, but mentally. Other comments that Phil would make carried on that old spirit of racism. let's make a reverse Oreo, Claudia, and you get in the middle of the two, white models. Telling me I'm the ass model, because stereotypically Black women are known to have a larger behind, and I guess that's why he wanted to grab it and feel it. Stuff like that over the course of 3 years will kind of weigh you down, or just like, damn, why are you so comfortable to talk to me like that? It definitely revealed an even darker side of the show and the racial profiling, even down to the contestants.
What I'm looking for in a contestant is someone ready to have a good time with us.
They would go through potential audience members in the line looking for contestants.
I think I'll be chosen because I'm an adorable person.
There was stereotypes that were definitely pushed on the show. Negative stereotypes of Black people.
I know, that's hard.
Like the overweight Black woman, the extra loud, ridiculous person. And then I started to hear that they were only allowed to have 2 Black contestants on the show at a time. And that was a direct instruction from Bob Barker. And to let Barker know the race of the contestant that's about to come on down, they would have the letter B written on the card.
I think he just didn't care to be that close to somebody that was not white. It was pretty sad.
A Black contestant may try to hug Bob Barker, and he would kind of shrink away from them.
Aegon has won a car and the prize is right. You won a car. Yes, don't attack me. Don't touch me.
How shitty is that?
That culture of racism started at the top and trickled down. I think it's very sad because these are all people that are looking to live that dream, and as a fan of the show, is just super unfortunate.
You know, when you go through something like this and it's just multiple incidents that happen on the racism front, on the sexual harassment front, on the retaliation front, there's only so much a girl should take. They really did me dirty. I wasn't gonna sit around and just let this happen to me and be a victim. They messed with the wrong one. I remember the day. Came to work, and the end of every show, a model goes out and has the microphone and gets to like say hello to the audience. So I got the microphone, and I said, I just wanna say something. Damn, I can't believe I'm feeling like this already. I was like, I can't do this anymore. The stuff I have to deal with behind the scenes, I can't do it anymore, and I'm gonna miss this, but this is my last day. I found the lawyer that was representing Holly. Holly's case definitely gave me strength, and especially since I had the same lawyer. I felt like I had a great case, and they got hit with their paperwork the next day. They made my life a living hell, and I was determined to return the favor. I was a young girl. I just had a very honest dream of coming to Hollywood, being on television and making my family proud. Then to have to deal with some pervy guy putting his hands on me. And then I just gotta shut up and take it because Bob Barker, who I grew up admiring, watching his show, did not give a shit. That's not right. So I sued the production company in 2004 for sexual harassment, retaliation, racial discrimination, and a bunch of other things. The production company settled with me out of court, and Phil Wayne loses his job, but gets sent off with a hefty package. And that's just how this world goes. Boy, when I tell you, when I come back in my next life, I need to be a man. A mediocre, fat, ugly man that just gets away with everything. But I am proud to say that mine was the only case where the perpetrator actually lost his job. I heard many people try to get him out before me, but apparently the show was okay with keeping him around, sending the women off. But I did it, and I'll always be proud about that. I feel like I saved some other women. I've always felt like I was built to kind of fight for justice. And Holly's case definitely gave me strength. She never gave up her fight against Bob Barker.
Bob Barker's defamation lawsuit against former model Holly Hallstrom rages on nearly 5 years later.
From the very beginning, I knew that the lawsuit was going to be a long siege. Bob would never quit until he had played every trick in the book. It's like a chess game. It's like a legal maneuvering chess game. And that went on for years.
Holly Hallstrom's legal battle was epic. The guts that it took for her to defend her name against one of the most beloved men in Bob Barker.
Free Bob Bob! Free Bob Bob!
That is incredibly inspiring.
He really wanted to destroy you until you were as low as you could get. I watched him do it to Diane. And I was determined he was not going to do that to me. The whole thing dragged on for 5 years. And all of a sudden, he dropped the lawsuit.
After a 5-year standoff, Bob Barker has officially dropped his defamation lawsuit against former model Holly Hallstrom.
2-3 days before trial, and Bob Barker and The Price is Right dropped their defamation lawsuit against Holly Hallstrom, reads one way to me. The last thing they want is a public trial with testimony by all of the witnesses who are corroborating Holly Hallstrom's version of events. But more importantly, she doesn't back down. She says, I'm gonna file a lawsuit against Bob Barker for malicious prosecution.
Because when somebody sues you, drags you through court for 5 years, and then drops it right before it's due to go to trial, that is called malicious prosecution. I had a perfect case for malicious prosecution.
Holly really was just pissed. She's basically in the ring fighting this death match with him.
They did offer me a settlement that would include a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that I could not speak publicly about the show. But I knew that I was not going to sign an NDA because he is a liar. He is a shameless, self-promoting liar.
This company has not fired people over the years.
I was fired. I had truth on my side. There was no justice if you can win because you have more money. Over the years, I sold my house, savings account, portfolio, all of it was spent just trying to stay in this lawsuit. I just didn't want him to win. Throughout the whole 10 years of this legal battle, I lost everything. I was totally broke and living out of my car. I would just stay with friends and family because the moment I couldn't afford to stay in this lawsuit, then I would have to settle. And I was not going to do that.
That's a real testament to Holly. She waited this out. She's like, I'm digging in my heels. I believe in this plan. I believe he's wrong. I'm not going to settle with them.
And then all of a sudden, the lawsuit changed 180 degrees. The judge had denied the last motion and ordered it to trial. And he could never, never let this go to trial. From that point on, it was over. He had to pay. They gave me everything I wanted, including no NDA.
Holly took a very dramatic public stand, and she really wasn't doing it for recognition. This was something she did for herself, she did for those other women. Very few people have that fortitude.
I was always told to not speak up against the establishment. It would hurt my career, but my life exploded once I took a stance and stood up to the powers that be.
I filed my lawsuit in 2001 for wrongful termination. I never got $1 million settlement, but I did have one moment of vindication at the Ports House as we met in the hallway. I pointed at him and I said, "Barker, one day you're going to go straight to hell." As I was walking away, his eyes got very, very big because nobody talks to him like that. That was the best moment ever, and it still is.
I'll show you who's the boss. Janice and I put in a lawsuit, wrongful termination. They did give us a nice little settlement. Yes. Oh! By and large, I wouldn't change a thing. I am so happy and proud that I was able to be the first Black model on The Price is Right. I love you. And most importantly, the real truth did come out.
You know, in 2007, Barker tapes his last appearance.
I want to thank you very, very much for inviting me into your homes for the last 50 years.
The way that he's presenting it is that he's in his 80s and the time has come. But, you know, what also is coming out is that he was pushed out at this point.
It took the most loyal fan base of Bob Barker so long to realize maybe there is a dark side to this guy. But his troubles just kept mounting and mounting.
There was so much legal pressure on him that if he had stayed, I think that the force would have been strong enough to not only blow him away, but the whole show.
Tributes are pouring in today for Price is Right host Bob Barker, who died of natural causes at age 99 at his Hollywood Hills home.
Definitely, the fact that he had passed away, I think, gave certain people a sense of permission to tell this really important untold story that has tremendous relevance for right now. When I look at that show now, I really think of the women, and I think of the stands that they took and what they were dealing with and how they won the game in the end of it.
These women brought some of the earliest cases of sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation against one of the most powerful men in the entertainment business.
They really were the unsung warriors of Me Too.
Looking back now, I can't believe I made it. This stuff is still going on, and you have to make a choice. Because if you choose to fight, you're going to be fighting hard and for a long time. But if you don't, then you have to live with the fact that you have allowed yourself to be abused, and that will stay in your soul.